To Citi Field here in Flushing, New York, and welcome to Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. A beautiful night for a ball game and a big ball game here in New York as the second place Mets take on the first place Nationals. The Mets have taken the first two games of the series, and they're closing in on first place. A win tonight for the Mets would leave these two teams in a virtual tie for first in the National League East. Tonight, another Sunday from the Seats game presented by Booking.com. And tonight we're out here in the Party City deck in the first row bleachers in left center. Dan Schulman, Kurt Schilling, and sitting in for John Kruk this week, our friend Aaron Boone. Welcome to New York. This should be a lot of fun. It's going to be great between the Nationals and the Mets. And Aaron, you've been talking about it in our meeting today, here at the ballpark over dinner. This is a big game, you think, for both of these teams?
It really is. It's August 2nd, but as Carl Ravitch said, this feels like an October baseball game. And with first place on the line, the Washington Nationals, once they got healthy, it was a bygone conclusion that they were just going to pull away in this division. Now they're in danger of getting swept by the Mets and relinquishing, or at least relinquishing that tie for first place. And if you're the New York Mets, this Citi Field has turned into old Shea from an energy standpoint. Yep. You've infused the offense. Yoenis Cespedes has come in to help Lucas Duda. It's now a much more formidable offense to go with a tremendous pitching staff. And if you can somehow sweep today and get a tie at first, this is a young team that all of a sudden starts to gain a ton of confidence.
A tremendous pitching staff and a great pitching matchup, Schill, in this game here tonight.
And it is. And now, you watch them walk in from the bullpen, and that's one of the reasons why the Mets are going to be special. You see their guy going tonight, and behind him you see the rest of the rotation. These guys are a unit, and at the top of this unit is probably going to end up being this kid right here, 6 foot 19 inches tall or whatever it is. And I kept trying to come physically to a comparison. I keep going back to J.R. Richards, the last guy physically, stuff-wise, that I saw that looks like this coming out of his hand. I love the matchup. On the other side, a guy who probably would be the marquee guy in any other matchup around the league today for the most part, in Jordan Zimmermann. If the Washington Nationals are going to win the World Series, everybody's expecting them to the last 3 or 4 years, he's going to have to continue to be himself and maybe even be a little bit better than he has been.
Well, for the New York Mets, a lot of excitement right now. Not only are they playing better now, but they've made some moves. Buster Olney is going to tell us. Buster, as you know, Mets fans were yelling for so long, make some moves, make some moves. They finally did in the last week.
And there's no question about it. Since the Mets started their midseason makeover, adding Kelly Johnson and Juan Uribe and Tyler Clippard and Yoenis Cespedes, they are 5-2. And no player seems to have been more directly affected than Lucas Duda, who, after Johnson was added, asked manager Terry Collins, was he brought in here to play first base? And the answer from Collins was, that's up to you. In those 7 games, Lucas Duda 9 for 24, hitting .375 with 8 home runs. And he told me before, the guys who've come in have brought in a certain level of energy. They've definitely helped. Dan, back to you.
Buster absolutely crushing it in the lime green shirt here tonight. It's going to be a big crowd. We got a beautiful spot here out in left center field. Sunday from the seats. Bryce Harper's in the lineup for the Washington Nationals. The Mets looking for a sweep and a tie for first in the National League East. There is a lot to talk about, a lot to look forward to. Here is the Nats take on the Mets tonight. Bacon Club Chalupa, because bacon you can't eat is bacon you don't need. And in part by Chevrolet, find new roads. And USAA, proudly serving the financial needs of current and former military members and their families. Here he is, 22 years of age, 6'6", 240, bringing it at 97, 98 miles an hour sometimes. And yeah, they're thinking sweep with Thor on the mound tonight here at Citi Field. Mets fans are fired up, and that's a bit of an understatement right now after the trades and the wins in the first two games of this series. Syndergaard has been great at home. Syndergaard has been great lately. Aaron, if you were to step into the box against Noah Syndergaard, what would you be thinking?
A lot of right-handed hitters in this lineup for the Washington Nationals. Look away. What I love about Syndergaard, yes, the tremendous stuff, but the maturity along the way has been tremendous. And watch him wear out a lane on that outside part of the plate to these right-handed hitters. Fastball command out there, and then works his secondary pitches off of that pitch.
But it's yeah, I mean, this is about fastball command, and this is the ultimate example of a fastball being 4 to 6 pitches. He'll shoot. If he's on tonight, which I expect, watch him get loose. He obviously feels good tonight. I expect to see a lot of velocity, a lot of command early.
And bringing the Game of Thrones theme music too here at Citi Field as he warms up on the mound. Matt Williams is starting to get some of his horses back for the Nationals. This is a Nationals team that is still without Denard Span, and at various points this season has been without Ryan Zimmerman, has been without Anthony Rendon, and has also been without Jason Worth. Those three guys are now back, yet the Nationals still aren't scoring many runs. They've been held to 1 run in 4 of their last 6 games. Let's take a look at their lineup now, brought to you by Taco Bell. What needs to happen offensively, Schill, for the Nationals?
They need to stop facing Kershaw, Greinke, Cole, Fernandez, Hart. I mean, they're facing some of the elite pitching. As a pitcher, when I look at this lineup in context, there's only one guy who I look at and say, okay, he will not beat me, and that is still Bryce Harper. He is so far above everybody else in baseball, not just the lineup, but in baseball. Strike zone recognition, his ability to do damage across the plate. So, you know, for me, the big thing is the 2 guys in front of him, I need to make sure they're not on base when he's up.
Wind is blowing out here tonight as we look at the flags above home plate, blowing out straight towards us, towards our vantage point in left center. Some of the flags up above the right field foul pole aren't moving at all, but it is a breezy night, at least where we are. Here's where we are out in left center. Plate's way that way. Glove up.
I'm on it.
I wasn't joking the first time I said it either.
I'm on it.
We've got the Nationals and the Mets wrapping up this 3-game series and ready to go. First time since 2008 the Mets have been in this good of a position this late in the season. Haven't made the postseason since 2006. Long way to go, of course. 2 months left, but their fans are fired up.
And if you're a Mets fan, the first inning, these first 3 hitters, first 5-10 pitches, watch the catcher's glove, where he sets up and where he catches fastball. If he's got his command early, he gets fun to watch.
Guys, this feels like Old Shea Stadium when the Mets are good. The buzz right now is palpable. This feels like an October baseball game.
Andy Fletcher's the home plate umpire. Paul Emmel at first. Jerry Mills, the crew chief, is at second. And Marcus Patillo is the umpire at third. Yunel Escobar will lead it off for the Nationals. Having a very solid season, hitting .314, playing third base for Washington this year. After the Rendon injury early, Rendon has come back. He's at second. They've left Escobar at third. And we're underway with the first pitch swing and a foul back here at Citi Field. After Escobar, Rendon, and then Harper. Mets have been a great home team this year. 37-18 here at Citi Field. And a swing and a ground ball with the second baseman Murphy. Plenty of time to get Escobar one down.
And Escobar is always aggressive. But I think that should be the plan for these national hitters. You've got a strike thrower, you've got a power pitcher. Go set your sights on a pitch on the outer half and get busy against Syndergaard.
Harper waiting on deck. Anthony Rendon is the batter right now. Rendon, as we mentioned, has missed a lot of time with injuries this year, and a guy who you kind of forget was 5th in the National League in MVP balloting last year. But he has been out more than he has been in so far this year. Quad and knee injuries.
One of the things to watch too, especially for young pitchers, with Harper on deck, keeping your focus on the hitter at the plate.
A little low for ball 2. Got it up there at 98 miles an hour, though. Tell us what you mean, Show, when you say, you know, it's an effortless 98. It comes out nice and easy.
From a hitter's perspective, I always felt like a guy like this, his windup says 88 and the ball says 98, and they're two.
There's a shot headed right out our way, off the fence just below us in left center. Bounces past Cespedes, picked up by Johnson. He'll relay it back into the infield, and that'll be a double. Little early action, boys.
Where are you at, Dan?
I'm right where I am and right where I'm going to be.
How you're not reaching for that?
Well, this is 2-0 count. You know he wants to go away with his fastball, and if it drifts over the heart of the plate, which it does, that's a chance to do damage for these Washington National hitters. And on a 2-0 count, Rendon puts a real charge into this ball.
I'm kind of disappointed in the effort from Shulman. I didn't see anything. Look, his hands are still on the table.
I'm kind of disappointed you expected an effort from Shulman.
I guess that was the expectations are the problem. Are they replaying?
Was this over the line? I was too busy ducking for cover to see. That's a home run, boys.
Yeah, it is.
That's a home run.
Yep.
Home run by about a foot, it looks like. Shouldn't take him too long on this one.
And guys, look, on paper, this Washington National offense has a chance to be very good. They need to get Worth going. They need to get Zimmerman. And Span is huge at the top of this lineup, setting the table. But they've got to get them rolling, and no better starting tonight.
This is a homer.
Here come the headsets.
And Rendon has given Washington an early 1-0 lead. And now Bryce Harper. Harper with huge numbers, although he has not made quite as much noise the last couple of weeks. He did have a 2-homer game earlier this week. In his last 12 games, 2 homers, 4 RBIs. All of that came in the same game. And still putting up MVP caliber numbers here this year at the age of 22. We got a 22-year-old Harper and a 22-year-old Syndergaard. In some ways, the future of the game on display here tonight.
That's what I was going to say. If it works out for the game of baseball, over the next 10 years, you're going to see this matchup 100 or more times. And this is power against power on both ends of the spectrum. I still would like to see them jump on that first pitch fastball away.
You know, we probably won't see it a lot tonight, but another pitch, the changeup we threw on the 1-0 pitch or the 0-1 pitch to Harper. That's a pitch that's come along for him as well. Tonight, with primarily a right-handed lineup, we probably won't see that a lot.
Ground ball to second. 2 down.
That was it right there. Well, when you're primarily a fastball pitcher, you want to stay away from hitters' counts as much as possible. There's a first pitch fastball on the block, down and away. I mean, he dots both corners right down. Those balls look a little low, but then he puts himself in a 2-0 situation or is put in one. He throws that ball, leaks back out of the plate. I think I'm all in favor of him losing that 2-seam.
Yes.
He doesn't need it.
But although he does dot both sides, like you say, his strongest command and where he's going to go more often than not to these righties is away.
Yeah.
So if you're the Nationals, you've got to eliminate in. It's a show-me pitch that he wants to get you in there.
And ultimately, for me, if he paints that ball in the inside corner, then you can do with it anyway.
Exactly.
So why look for a pitch you can't hit?
Look away, and if it drifts into the heart of the plate like it did for
you can drive it. You can drive
that's a pitch you can do some damage against.
Here's the 1-1 to Ryan Zimmerman. Swing and a miss with the breaking ball, 1-2.
That's the pitch that makes that fastball down and away so lethal. And the other thing is the first out of the game, the ground ball second, you can't try and pull that ball. You have to hit that ball and get some lift on it, or it's gonna be a ground ball to the right side. And then when you get 2 strikes, just choke up and defend.
Up and in with a fastball at 97, 2-2.
Now, does that set up that breaking ball?
This sets up about 5 different pitches. He can double up on a ball in with a strike. He can go down and away with a slider off. I'm throwing fastball down and away off that pitch.
I think Zimmerman's looking breaking ball.
Got the fastball, lines it to right field, caught by Granderson, and the inning is over. Syndergaard gets Zimmerman, but he does not get Rendon, who homers to give the Nationals an early 1-0 lead. To the Mets, Stan Shulman, Aaron Boone, Kurt Schilling, Buster Olney, and Terry Collins, the manager of the Mets. The 5th season he has been at the helm of the Metropolitans. And a look at the lineup for the Mets tonight, presented by Taco Bell. And Aaron, this is a much different looking lineup. A lot more options than he had just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he's got a big league lineup now, and he can play the matchup game. Obviously, he added Cespedes, a guy capable of hitting in the middle of the order. And all these extra parts now, Uribe, Johnson, just lengthens the lineup and will ultimately, I think, help Lucas Duda, their 30 home run capability guy.
Yoenis Cespedes, acquired just a couple of days ago by the Mets. On the mound tonight for the Nationals, Jordan Zimmerman, probably the number 2 guy still in this Washington rotation, but just doesn't get a lot of publicity.
Well, he's the number 2 guy because the number 1 guy's got a lot of hardware. This is the name everybody's been talking about, I think, for the last 12 months. You know, the trade deadline last year, and he's headed to free agency. I think he's getting back to being healthy. I don't know what the thing was early in the year. He didn't look like himself, but he's getting back there, and this makes them a formidable team in a 5-game series if that happens.
Curtis Granderson leads it off for the Mets, hitting .254, 16 home runs on the season. He's in right field tonight. Started in center in one of the games in this series. Cespedes will move around a little bit. Cespedes is starting in center field tonight, which he told Terry Collins, who told us is his natural and most comfortable position.
Ooh.
Well, the Mets won't like if Zimmerman gets that, but they'll be okay with Syndergaard getting that one. 1-2.
And with Zimmerman, guys, he more so than Syndergaard, he'll move the ball around with his fastball more often. He'll go in, out, up, and down with more variance.
8-6 on the season with a 3.36 ERA. Chopper to second, got to hurry, and they will get Granderson by a step.
Good job by Rendon of calmly getting this ball. I think initially he thought Zimmerman might be able to make this play, but once it gets by him, Granderson, who still gets down the line pretty well, Rendon doesn't panic. Not a real easy play either for Zimmerman, handling a ball he knows going to have some velocity on it from down low and close. Good play, though, by Rendon and Zimmerman.
Now Daniel Murphy. .266 hitter on the season, starting at second base tonight. Another guy who gives Terry Collins some positional flexibility, if you will. Murphy can play different spots. Johnson can play different spots. Granderson, Cespedes can both play multiple spots in the outfield.
Yeah, he's got a full bench now, and he's got versatility with those players. So he can look each night and say, all right, what's the best matchup for these guys against the pitcher? And that's something a week 10 days ago he simply did not have. And when you have a pitching staff like the New York Mets, it doesn't take a lot of runs night in and night out, but too often in the first half it was 1 or 0 runs.
Murphy takes a strike, 3-1. Down the left field line, but out of play, a full count. The Mets are 54-40 on the season. The Nationals are 54-48. The Mets have an easier schedule the rest of the way. They've got 6 left for the Nationals, but after this series, they've only got 14 games left against teams that are currently above 500. Swing and a miss by Murphy. He's gone 2 down, and they will finish the season here with a 3-game series against Washington. Two down, and here's Cespedes. Went 0 for 3 with an intentional walk last night. 293, 18 homers, 61 RBIs on the season. They picked up Kelly Johnson, they picked up Juan Uribe, they picked up Tyler Clippard, and then they picked up Yoenis Cespedes. What a trading deadline, huh?
Oof. Something like 130 players moved. Or I think this trading deadline, more so than any in the past I can remember, the value of prospects, I think, came back to earth.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of the Daniel Norris kind of who in the past you wouldn't even touch.
Yeah.
But I think that's also why you saw a lot of really good players move.
Norris, by the way, pitched great for the Tigers today. Made his Tigers debut. He went to Detroit from Toronto in the David Price deal. Price will debut for Toronto tomorrow against Minnesota.
And short drive in the Volkswagen. Short drive in the Volkswagen minibus.
Yeah. David Wright in the ballpark. The Mets are hoping to get him back out on rehab games maybe by next weekend. He has been out since April with spinal stenosis. And Terry Collins was telling us, they're gradually ramping it up, but he does things for a few days, then he kind of needs to take a day off, and it still feels, guys, I don't know how you feel, like there's a lot of uncertainty about when and how much David Wright will be able to contribute. Been out for a long time. 2-2, and it's in the dirt. A check swing, and on the appeal, he didn't go. It's a full count on Cespedes.
Well, he went back-to-back sliders and now a curveball, a little slower on on the breaking ball, all down and away. And you know, you touched on it, Kurt. A free swinger is Cespedes. I think he probably held up there. But even here on a 3-2 pitch, this is not a time you have to give in to Cespedes.
You have to be able to throw a quality ball.
Popped up right side. Zimmerman has it, and the Mets go in order in the bottom of the first. 1-0 Nationals at the end of an inning. Jason Worth will lead it off for Washington when we come back. Field, the home of the Mets, as the Mets and Nationals wrap up their 3-game series. The Mets looking to sweep the series. And a shout out to old Shea Stadium here, the Shea Bridge at Citi Field. Out in the outfield with Kurt Schilling, Aaron Boone, Buster Olney. I'm Dan Schulman. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, and a swing and a miss by Jason Worth to get us started here in the second. Another guy who's been out with injuries, a wrist injury costing him a couple of months, and just 3 for 17 since coming back about a week ago, hitting .203 overall on the season.
And Worth's typically a guy, just I think because of the way he swings, his size, his length, that takes a while to get rolling. Typically spring training he struggles a little bit, and with that wrist he was unable to do anything for a couple of months.
Chases the breaking ball down and away. Strikeout number 1 on the night for Syndergaard.
Let's take a look at Yoenis Cespedes, who figures to play some center field, as we've talked about with the Mets. His first time in a while since July of last year. It'll be interesting. He says he feels comfortable out there, but as one of the premier left fielders defensively in the game, it'll be interesting to see how he roams the big center field here in Citi Field.
Well, Juan Lagares is not swinging the bat very well, so Lagares, especially against righties, so they figure to play Lagares in center field against lefties. Cespedes will be in left against lefties, but could be in center against righties.
But another one of those moving parts for Terry Collins, where now late in the game he gets a lead, he can move over a Gold Glove left fielder in Yoenis Cespedes and bring in one of the best defensive center fielder in Lagares. Options.
Sent foul off to the right. A ball and 2 strikes on National shortstop Ian Desmond. who has had a tough year both ways, and he's heading into free agency as well. He's hitting just .215 on the season. Was plagued by defensive issues at the beginning of the season in April. Those have tightened up somewhat, but still 21 errors on the season. And a check swing foul off on a high fastball. Kurt, you're making all kinds of noises after these pitches. What's going on over there?
It's so fun to watch. These guys are looking fastball, and the swings they're taking on fastballs that they're looking for tell you how quickly the ball gets on you.
1-2. And a check swing roller out in front of the plate. Kevin Plawecki comes it down to first, 2 down.
Quit laughing, Chill.
So this is what I'm talking about, and I don't know. It can't be a comfortable at bat, even when you do swing the bat well, because what I think he's looking outer half here.
But you know what? He established the inside part of the plate so well now against Desmond. For the rest of the night,
he doesn't have
his bread and butter. He can go away with.
Yep. And that's what you do. That's what you do. Oh, hey, the bat didn't break. That's impressive wood right there. Watch the fastball come in. When he's missing early, he's still throwing good quality pitches.
Outside ball 1 to Jose Lobaton, getting the start behind the plate for the Nats tonight.
And I'm not really sure Fletch is calling a very wide plate for these first 2 guys, for Zim or for Syndergaard. That's what I'm talking about right there. I don't care that that's a borderline pitch. What I care about is he missed just by a little bit in the spot he was trying. That pitch had an effect.
Well, Terry Collins raved about the development that Syndergaard has had. He's not a thrower. He's a pitcher. The learning curve, the fastball command this year. Not just a young guy out there heaving at 98 miles an hour.
Well, and Kurt can speak to this better, but when I look at Syndergaard and frankly DeGrom and Harvey, their delivery seems so simple that their times of struggle in their career are going to be small.
Yeah.
Because that's such a simple delivery to repeat, they're going to be consistent.
That is part of it. The other part is look at the tempo. Yeah. None of them are in a hurry to get their arm up to that throwing spot, and that to me is the most important piece. Whether you're 5'8" or 6'8", as you get taller, it gets more challenging. When you slow down, everything becomes easier. You become your own pitching coach.
2-2 on the way. On the appeal, yes, he did, and the inning is over. 3 up, 3 down with a couple of strikeouts and an overpowering second inning for Noah Syndergaard. Final installment of Sunday in the Seats as we welcome you back here to Citi Field Nationals and the Mets, our fourth and final installment of getting to dress casually for the ball game. Buster's turn to bring us home in the lime green or navy blue, because he's colorblind and doesn't know the difference.
I love it, Dan.
Hashtag BDTN green shirt. Who wore it best? Aaron, I guess you're the only impartial one because you didn't wear the green.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you like?
No competition.
Firstly, I'm loving the look. Like Crucky's got some swag going.
Crucky's got it going.
I think Crucky wins.
Wow. Crucky doesn't win. I'm totally embracing the green, okay, guys? I definitely win.
By the way, Crucky at the Phillies Wall of Fame induction weekend. Pat Burrell getting inducted into the Phillies Wall of Fame this weekend. If you're watching the Nationals and the Mets, the beloved green shirt is a new home tonight. Tell us who wore it best by using hashtag BDTN green shirt.
I was actually going to go this weekend, but Crucky and I decided that we both couldn't leave you.
I appreciate that.
And the show needed at least one of us. So
yes, Kurt Schilling, the emotional rock of the team.
A little teary-eyed.
Duda skies one down the left field line. Worth, staggering, makes the catch, one down. Now Juan Uribe. Aaron, what did the Mets get themselves in the pickup of Uribe and Johnson, who's on deck?
They got themselves good major league players. And again, more options for Terry Collins, because Juan Uribe in stretches can be a very good hitter and provide that power. So I think with him and Johnson, it just gives them, and now I can pick the matchups I want them to be in, a chance for them to be more successful. And when they're right, they can provide some protection and provide a little scare for a pitcher after the middle of the order hitters.
Started the year with the Dodgers, then the Braves, now the Mets, and a guy that ball players say just great in the clubhouse, too. I'm a terrific teammate.
And I think there's something to good managers put players in the best position to succeed, but you have to have the right kind of players to do that. And I think Terry finally feels like I can look to my bench and put a major leaguer on the field.
Yep. And Uribe's been a guy that's got all kinds of postseason experience. He's played well. He's comfortable in those situations. So if the Mets are to get in, they've got a guy with a lot of experience and a really good track record.
Another guy with experience on deck came in the same trade, Kelly Johnson. Playing multiple positions as well. He's starting at left field tonight. Uribe lays off that slider down and away, 2-2. Jordan Zimmerman has set down the first 4 Mets he's faced. Oh, ooh, wow. And delayed call. And make it 5 as Andy Fletcher rings him up.
Never too late to get it right.
That had very much a Tim McClellan feel to the call right there. That's about as perfect a slider strike as you can throw. Down and away, baby. A lot of money to be made out of that corner. And there's an interesting dynamic at work for a game like this, in that you've got 2 guys who are top of the rotation pitchers.
Chill, don't forget that.
I'll get, yeah.
Do your best. Johnson grounds out to end the inning. Hey, Noah Syndergaard, he'll have to wait. He can hit a little bit, headed back to the mound when we come back. for the Mets. The Mets have won the first 2 games of this series. Got a very good performance from Matt Harvey on Friday night. And Wilmer Flores with a walk-off home run. Then last night, Jacob deGrom pitched well. And Lucas Duda had 2 homers and an RBI double to help in a 3-2 win. And pleased to join now the aforementioned Matt Harvey, joining us from the Mets dugout. Matt, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
We are well. Dan Schulman, Aaron Boone, Kurt Schilling. We are out in the first seat of the bleachers out in left center here, out in the Party City area of the ballpark. Tell us a little bit of what it's been like this weekend, these first 2 games of the series.
Oh, it's been awesome. I think the Mets fans definitely came here to rock the house, and we couldn't thank them enough, and we can feel it here in the dugout for sure.
Hey, Matt, it's Kurt. Congratulations on getting healthy again. Tell me how you feel right now between starts. I know with Tommy John, you go through those peaks and valleys. Are you still having days, or is everything fine?
No, everything's good right now. I think there was a stretch there where things were tough. I think I was getting out of my mechanics a little bit, and you know, really trying to find something. But you know, now that these past few starts, I think 4 or 5 in a row, I've really felt good.
I'm watching Noah warm up before the game. You guys go down to the bullpen when you guys get loose. What do you guys talk down there when you're getting loose, or when you're warming up for a game? What do you guys do?
I think it's more for moral support. I think just being out there and you know, we try and be out there for bullpens, and I think just us being out there is you know, means a lot. And I know when I'm warming up and the guys are down there, I can see them back there, and it's nice having them back there.
There's a roller out to short. Up with it, Tejada on the first one down.
Matt, has there been a kind of friendly competition that's developed between you and the other guys in this pitching staff?
I don't think it's a competition. I think it's more of just feeding off of each other's success. I think you know, obviously deGrom's definitely leading the way, and you know, he's been sharp all year, and you know, Syndergaard definitely has gotten into a good groove here, and me slacking behind. I'm trying to pick up the pace a little bit, which fortunately enough I've been able to do that last couple times.
At what point do you join the hair club? I mean,
no.
No?
No,
that's not you? Okay.
No. That can be those guys, but I'll keep it short and clean.
There's Jordan Zimmerman. What about hitting competition between you 3 guys?
I think that would definitely be a competition. I think,
you've got one. You've taken one deep this year, right?
Yeah, I snuck one over. I thought it was scraped the wall, but they reviewed it, and I honestly thought I was going back out to second base to start all over with the ground rule double, but luckily snuck over.
Hey, Matt, what did it mean in the clubhouse the last 10 days or so with the moves that the Mets made?
Oh, it's huge. You know, it shows that we're here to win, and I know everybody talks about the future with us and our pitching staff and being young, and you know, our goal is with all 25 guys to win right now, and you know, that means a lot, shows a lot, and obviously it's an important series, and you know, we've played the first 2 pretty well.
Matt, there's been you didn't get to pitch in Shea Stadium, but there's been a lot of buzz around here that Citi Field this weekend has felt like Shea when the Mets were at their very best.
Yeah, I think you know, just walking in before the game, you could feel it. You could feel the energy, and you know, obviously when I'm out there, I really don't you know, notice too much until I'm coming out of the game. But you know, after watching last night, you know, us put up some runs, do what he does, and you know, the energy is just coming out.
Matt, stay healthy. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck, man.
Matt Harvey of the New York Mets. Zimmerman goes around, 2 down. I like that. And Duda did what he does.
Right.
That's harder to say than you think.
And it rolled effortlessly.
He did it well.
Yeah. Because I guarantee it's not Duda in the clubhouse.
Lucas Duda's been.
Duda do what he do.
Well, Duda's been doing what he does a lot lately. He's got 8 home runs in the last 7 games coming into this one, and 2 last night, and an RBI double that scored the eventual winning run, the go-ahead run, in a 3-2 Mets win.
And I've always been a fan of the guys where you put them on the hot stove, you put them in the hot spot, and they react. You know, guys, oh, you don't want to put pressure on them, let them play. He was clearly told you're going to dictate whether you're playing or not, and he's dictating it.
Well, Buster touched on this a little bit. I think patience has really helped him out. 30 home runs a year ago. But look, this offense was not very good in the first half, and I think he felt the onus. And as a result, I think he left the strike zone too often. And I think a little bit of patience has come back, and as a result, that power starting to show up in a big-time way in a big-time spot.
He had 30 home runs a year ago. He's now up to 20 this season. 1-0 Nationals. Top of the third, 2 outs, nobody on. Back to the top of the order for Yunel Escobar. 2-0, 90-mile-an-hour changeup.
Yep. And a nasty one. It looked like a split.
Man,
that was filthy. Watch the. It's okay. Nice and easy. It just disappears.
And then the fastball backhanded out at second by Murphy, and the inning is over. He has set down 8 in a row. 1-0 Nationals. We're going to the bottom of the third Sunday night from the seats at Citi Field. So baseball coming your way this week on ESPN, and if you're a fan of the Pirates, lots of Pirates tomorrow night. Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. They will host the Cubs. Wednesday night, Luis Severino scheduled to make his major league debut for the Yankees as they host the Red Sox. And then not one but 2 games involving the Dodgers and the Pirates, Friday night and Sunday night. And Mr. Schilling, if you like to watch great pitchers and break them down, Friday night looks like Clayton Kershaw and Garrett Cole.
Yeah, that's one of those dream Game 7 World Series matchups.
What's Kershaw at now? 37 consecutive scoreless innings?
Him and Greinke combined are like 604 innings this year or something ridiculous. Got a couple extra umpires in the ballpark tonight, huh?
We have just behind home plate. You can see them there, just off to the left. They're real fake umps, and they are raising money for Ump Cares charities. You see them around in a lot of ballparks.
They just called the foul ball.
Yeah.
Gave the count.
Now, will they argue with guys and kick guys out too when that's happening on the field?
They're multi-talented. They're all over now.
So now you're going to be looking at them. You're going to miss what's happening at the plate.
You look when nothing happens at the plate. You look right there, right after the
outside in a full count. We don't need a shill who's like distracted between 2 different things.
Oh, I'm all right.
You're all right?
Yeah, I can look both ways.
Okay. Signal full count, guys. Did they signal full count?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. They took out a new ball.
The Nets cutting off their follow-through.
Yeah. Look how happy he is.
This is fun. You got to love the sport.
Yes.
Oh. Zimmerman wanted it. Lobaton pointed at him as if to say, you made your pitch. You just didn't get the call.
And the Washington dugout yelled out to Lobaton, hey, where's that pitch? And Lobaton kind of gave him a little head nod. It misses his location. I think he wanted it down and away, but clearly catches the top of that strike zone. You see Lobaton hold it there, but Mets get the call.
Leadoff walk, too.
So here's Syndergaard. He's 5 for 27, a 185 average this year. He has a home run, but he shows bunt and he gets it down nicely up the first baseline. The sacrifice moving Milwaukee to second. Syndergaard batting in the 8th spot in Terry Collins' lineup tonight. Something that he's done on occasion this year, mostly with either Syndergaard or DeGrom. Runner at second, one out, bottom of the third, 1-0 Nationals. And the batter will be the shortstop Ruben Tejada. Sometimes you'll see Wilmer Flores at short, sometimes Flores at second. With Tejada at short. Wilmer Flores had himself quite a few days, didn't he?
Emotional.
Yes. On Wednesday, thought he had been traded from the Mets to Milwaukee in a Carlos Gomez deal that eventually fell apart. But because of the way the world works, another example of how different the world is than it used to be. David Wright was up in the clubhouse watching the game on TV. There's Flores. Came down into the dugout and said to Terry Collins, they're saying on TV, the local Mets telecast, they're saying that Flores has been traded to Milwaukee for Carlos Gomez. And Collins is like, what? Nobody told me that. And he pointed to the phone in the dugout and he says, unless that phone rings, there's no trade. But then as Flores came up to bat in the 7th inning, a fan sitting right beside the Mets dugout, who saw on his phone or whatever that he thought he'd been traded, yelled out to Flores, hey,
good luck in Milwaukee.
Good luck in Milwaukee.
We got Gomez.
And everybody in America, I think, saw it when he took the field a half inning later.
He went to the plate and they gave him a standing
ovation.
Like, what's going on?
And then in the top of the 8th inning, he actually cried. He shed some tears out on the field because he thought his days as a Met were over. He had been signed as a 16-year-old out of Venezuela by the Mets. Line back to the mound, speared by Zimmerman. 2 down. What's that like, Sheila?
That's an out. That's an out. You know what? It happens so fast a lot of times. He got out a little bit right there. That wasn't as bad. But you finish in a good spot to field your position, and you saw both pitchers, Syndergaard with the bunt and Zim with the defensive play in the National League, being able to do little things ends up making an 18-game winner, a 20-game winner over the course of the season.
So 2 down, back to the top of the order now for Granderson as the Mets try to cash in the tying run here in the bottom of the 3rd. And then Flores to cap it off. After all that emotion on Wednesday, on Friday hits a home run in 12th inning to win it for the Mets.
Terry says in the 9th inning he couldn't let him go hit, right. And he says and then if I'm Flores, I'm thinking, okay, I have been traded. But you know, that's when we had all the shows that we had, the discussions we had, you gloss over the human part of this. And almost every player in baseball watching those shows was impacted by those trades in some way, shape, or form. From A-ball to the big leagues, almost every single guy watching was affected by what happened the other day.
And in the end, the Mets were concerned about Carlos Gomez's medical reports.
But how cool has it been to see this Met fan base go and see how much Wilmer Flores wants to be a part of the New York Mets and just completely wrap their arms around him?
They'll never forget it.
Will it stay that way if he boots a couple balls?
But I'm saying, as a player, you rarely get to be truly emotional to the fans, and I don't think they'll ever forget that. That's very cool.
And guys, if the Mets actually make the postseason, there's no question that those 48 hours, 72 hours are going to be looked at as the crossroad of this season. From the moment Flores thought he was going to be traded to that walk-off home run, pretty amazing time.
Well, and you think about, Buster, you think about the Thursday game that the New York Mets lost.
Granderson with a drive, deep right. It is gone. A two-run homer as Citi Field explodes and the Mets take the lead.
Home runs now. It's a hanging curveball. They want to go down and away with that pitch, and it just rolls into that happy zone for a left-handed hitter. And Curtis Granderson
and now on the next pitch, Daniel Murphy sends one into the second deck. Back-to-back home runs make it 3-1 for the Mets. Quite a scene here in this ballpark right now.
Well, all of a sudden, this Met lineup can hurt you in so many different places. Here, the top of the Mets order doing damage, and now a more real middle of the order coming up.
Yoenis Cespedes. Back-to-back home runs by Granderson, his 17th, Murphy, his 7th. And just like that, the Mets have a 3-1 lead. Base hit left field, Cespedes. Most of the people who stood when Granderson homered haven't sat down yet.
Now Cespedes has his first hit, but Kurt, Zimmerman's really established his fastball really good the first few innings. A couple of lazy breaking balls, first to Granderson, and here Cespedes getting his first hit as a Met. They just kind of rolled in there.
And that's what happened. You head around, second time around the lineup, and you think you got everybody sitting fastball, everybody sitting in his spot. So you do this kind of the show me breaking ball because you're going to go back to the fastball, and you don't get away with it. But generally, you don't see guys like Jordan Zimmerman make that mistake more than once in an inning. He's thrown a couple kind of bad breaking balls this inning.
Lucas Duda, the batter. The guy who's been providing most of the power for the Mets recently.
What do you say, Duda do what he do?
He likes watching Duda do what he does, or did what he did. Yeah. There's a lot of alliteration in there for Matt Harvey. Did he get enough? Did he keep it fair? Yes! Third home run of the inning for the Mets. His 9th home run in the last 8 games, and the 3rd given up amongst the last 4 batters by Jordan Zimmerman. Juan Uribe.
Guys, Jordan Zimmerman has given up 9 home runs coming into the game tonight in 128 plus innings. 3 in about 5 minutes here. This is a new look and a different New York Met team, far different than a few weeks ago.
and every fan base wants their team to win. But the Mets have had some lean years recently. They've been the butt of jokes around baseball at times. Again, they're 4 games over 500. They're not in a playoff position right now. They're 2 months to go. But boy, this fan base is excited right now.
Kurt, I've always felt like momentum is truly as good as the next day's pitcher. But this Met offense and these players that have really struggled to score runs all year are starting to gain momentum. And oh, by the way, your pitcher tomorrow every night is pretty darn good.
Right. I never felt like there was ever a game that turned a season around. I did believe there were some series that turned the season around, and that's exactly how it feels like this is playing out.
Well, and Aaron, you alluded to it. The loss on Thursday. They're up 7-5. It's pouring rain in the 9th inning. There are 2 outs, a strike on Derek Norris, and they put the tarp on the field. 44-minute delay. Familia comes back out, gives up 3 runs. Padres win 8-7. They come off that, beat the Nationals, beat them again, and now leading again on Sunday night.
And look, as players, we're conditioned to kind of turn the page.
They have certainly done that. The catch will be made by Rendon out at second. Finally, the inning is over, but not before the Mets. Starving for offense most of the season. That has not been the case here tonight. Granderson, Murphy back-to-back. 2 batters later. Duda, 3 home runs in the inning. 5-1 Mets. On ESPN. Sunday from the seat, presented by Booking.com. And in the words of Matt Harvey, how did Duda do what he just did? How did he keep that ball fair? Looked like it almost hit him in the hands.
I have no idea. I honestly don't know. I mean, most hitters you can pick a side of the plate. I mean, Duda's got power, line-to-line power, but he made the exact pitch he was trying to make.
Yep.
And sometimes those good pitches get hit in the big leagues. That was a great pitch.
You want to stay away from down and out over the plate with Lucas Duda.
Right.
That you figure you're safe on.
Well,
but he's so locked in. Man.
I'm not sure I remember a lefty saying, hey, you know, that's what David Ortiz did for a lot of years on that fastball. And that was, wow.
But David will pick a spot where he's looking for it and kind of cheat and clear those hips. That was just reaction.
It was all hands.
Anthony Rendon leads off the fourth for the Nationals, and a lazy fly ball to Cespedes in center field, 1 down.
Watch the glove. Watch his setup. He's trying to make this pitch here. Watch his hands. I can't get over how far in he brings his hands.
Shades of Edgar Martinez for the right-hander.
Yep.
Oh, watch him. Look how deep he catches it in the zone, and he does a great job of clearing his hips, so that allows him to get the barrel to it. That's amazing.
That's impressive.
That ball's deep in the hitting zone.
Way deep. That's why Manny was so good.
But you create space by clearing your hips.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Now Bryce Harper, first pitch swinging, hits a pop-up a mile in the air. Carries out to Cespedes in shallow right center for out number 2, and that is 10 in a row. Set down by Syndergaard since the home run by Rendon back in the first.
Well, this is the inning where Noah Syndergaard, you end the game. Come out, you have a quick one or you dominant one. Make sure they understand the game's over now, guys.
And here, 2 quick outs like that. Zimmerman likely to take a pitch here. This is where you just pour in that heater to the outer half.
And you have room to miss a little bit.
Breaking ball for a strike. Zimmerman with a fly ball to right field his first time up. He is the Washington first baseman, of course. Formerly for many years was their third baseman, who played some outfield last year, had some shoulder issues, some throwing issues. Ooh. Wake up call up and in at 97.
Well, they've showed him that a few times in this series. They got him to last night's game. They got him to chase a fastball up around the letters. They showed him high and tight his first at bat, and that one even a little closer. This is little 98. That'll get your attention. That will get your attention.
Need a TV timeout at that point.
But here you just continue to look away, though, if you're Zimmerman. But you can't let that move you.
Yeah, but there's nothing you can do. Like, you can look away all you want right there. Usually your butt's not going to follow you out there, though. You want to finish this inning with a punch out right here.
Missed with a breaking ball, 2-2.
Great miss, though.
Finish with a punch out, his 4th of the night. Syndergaard is rolling, and the Mets have a 5-1 lead. Blue Moon Brewing Company, artfully crafted, and by Viagra. Citi Field, the home of the Mets. Between innings, our muster only with Nationals manager Matt Williams.
Jordan Zimmerman was rolling along. What was your sense of what changed?
You know, the 3-2 curveball to Grandy got it. It was just up in the strike zone, and then Murph got a fastball out over, and Duda got a fastball up in the zone. So he's been missing a little bit, and they made him pay for it. We got to see if we can climb back in this one.
What's a hitter's challenge in facing Syndergaard?
It's just a really good fastball, and when he can drop a slider like he just did to Zim, then it makes it even more tough. So we're going to have to scrap and claw, see if we can get balls out over to hit, put some hits together, and see if we can give them a run for their money.
Matt, thank you.
Well, they have not been able to do a whole lot with Syndergaard. Nothing at all since the home run by Rendon back in the first. The Mets with 3 home runs in the bottom of the third. Granderson, Murphy, Duda. And it's a 5-1 lead for the Mets as we go to the bottom of the fourth. Kelly Johnson leads it off, grounded out in his first at bat. Johnson has now played for 8 teams in his career, including all 5 in the American League East. He played for those 5 teams in the span of just over a year. Came to the Mets from Atlanta, his most recent team. Crowd excited, but room for Harper here.
One of the challenges of pitching in the big leagues is sometimes it's not about throwing breaking balls behind in the count. It's about throwing quality breaking balls. That's a strike curveball with a homer. That ball's up in his zone. This pitch right there, I don't know what to tell you. That's the pitch you want to make in that situation. Big league hitters sometimes do things that nobody else can do, and that was one of them. That was amazing. I mean, he kept his hands in. Ball got so deep on him, and he's still home.
The batter Kevin Plawecki, who got the third inning started by drawing a walk.
A leadoff walk.
Syndergaard then bunted him over. Tejada lined up. Remember the great play that Zimmerman made on the mound for the second out. And then came the home runs, all after 2 were out.
I was going to say earlier that when I started to talk about this is one of those games. When you go into a game like this, if you're Noah Syndergaard, you're thinking, you know, the winning run could be 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. Jordan Zimmerman's going into this game knowing, hey, listen, I don't expect to get 5 runs tonight, so you know I want to keep the ball in the ballpark and stay away from walks, and got away from him quick. But then, you know, as Noah gets older, he's going to realize in a game like this, hey, the leadoff hitter could be the winning run, and that's when you kind of take it to the next level.
Down low, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Two. And a liner into right center for a base hit and maybe more. Cut off by Harper. And he will hold Plawecki to a long single. Let's take a look at tonight's home field advantage, brought to you by Quicken Loans. And Noah Syndergaard's last start, it came against San Diego. All he did was set down the first 18 batters he faced. Eventually went 8 shutout innings, striking out 9. Is this guy at some point in his career, guys, a no-hitter waiting to happen? Is that a yes?
At some point this year or career?
Career.
This year. Yeah. This is, you know, I'm trying to think of a rotation, and I was going back to the 70-71 Orioles, Palmer and Cuellar and McNally. If these guys can stay healthy, I don't know that there's a day when you actually want to be in the lineup and facing this.
Well, you throw Wheeler and Matson maybe
but
next
that's what
year.
I'm saying. There's 6 or 7, and apparently the kid that they traded in the Cespedes deal was every bit as good as any of them, or from a prospect perspective.
DeGrom on the left, Harvey on the right, along with Syndergaard. The core of this team going forward. I think it was Buster. Buster, was it you who asked Terry Collins in his office before the game the unanswerable question, as you put it, of who has the best stuff of the three?
Yeah, and guys, he had fun with that question because he was telling stories about how Dan Worthen comes back from a bullpen after one of the pitchers is warming up to start the game, and he says, hey, that guy's got the best stuff, and then Harvey throws and they rave about him, and on down the line. What a great job if you're Dan Worthen, the pitching coach of the Mets, going forward.
Can you guys answer the unanswerable question? In your minds, does one of them have stuff slightly better than the other two?
I mean, that's a hitter's question.
Yeah.
You know, from a pitching perspective, they're all in the same velocity area, although I think Syndergaard is in another little category by himself. All around, I think Harvey has the best assortment of pitches.
Right. Well, Terry Collins says he thinks a year from now Harvey will be like he was before the Tommy John surgery, that he, that second year back you gain a little bit extra stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. I think when he does gain that even little bit extra, I think his assortment of pitches, I think, creates more of a problem as a hitter.
So there's some 72-hour flu for some hitters coming up in the next few years.
Yeah, maybe some 96-hour stuff as well.
Some stiffness.
Yeah.
But I thought the coolest thing was, when you look at him talking about Zach Wheeler, don't forget about Zach Wheeler. But I'll tell you what, one of the things that especially for young pitchers, when you look at home plate and you look at velocity, these guys are all in the top 15. This is the big leagues. That's not like in their division or on theirs. That's in the big leagues.
Yeah, he was talking about Zach Wheeler as maybe having the best stuff, not quite the command.
Well, if he has the best stuff, he has to throw about 106, and he has to have like a Blyleven curveball and a Schmaltz slider. But the thing about it is you don't have to have tremendous secondary stuff when you can command 96, 97.
Yep.
Well, the Nationals saw all three of them. All three guys pitched in this 3-game series. Neese didn't pitch. Colon didn't pitch.
I still say the best 10 pitches I've seen this year were the 10 DeGrom threw in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, watching Syndergaard's last outing, though, and tonight, and he's showing me more on his arm side and being able to establish something on the inside part of the plate to the right-handers. Man, and it seems so easy for him.
6'6", 240 with about a 22-inch waist. And if you notice, he's got a little linebacker neck to him, too.
That pitch that he threw up in Zimmerman, does that, Aaron, have any impact on the other 8 hitters in the Washington lineup?
I don't think it does, honestly. Shill's sitting here shaking his head like it does.
It depends on the hitters.
I think it's more establishing that he can show me that he can go inside.
And he's not afraid to.
And he's not afraid to. Then it's going to get me. It's going to get me thinking and second guessing myself a little bit, and a little more reluctant to dive out and try to cover his bread and butter, which is clearly away.
Ground ball down to third, and the inning is over. 5-1 Mets lead. Syndergaard heading back to work. innings, Buster Olney with the Mets manager Terry Collins.
Terry, Lucas Duda, 9 homers in 8 games. What in the world is going on?
Well, it's been remarkable. You know, we came off the last road trip. We made a deal. We got Kelly Johnson and Juan Uribe, and you know, we're bringing those guys in. We have not been scoring, and we had a little meeting with everybody and said, look, we got to start getting some hits, or you know, we're going to change the lineup. And he's just gotten red hot.
How would you compare the crowd this weekend tonight to what you've seen before as manager of the Mets?
Well, this is a New York crowd for winning baseball. You know, they love their baseball here, and they love winning. And when you're giving them a product they can cheer for, they come out.
Terry, thanks.
All right, thank you, Buster. We go to the 5th inning, and Terry Collins has to love what he is seeing on the field here for the Mets. The electricity in the ballpark this weekend. As Jason Worth sends the first pitch up in the air right side. Murphy, the second baseman. 1 down. Tomorrow on SportsCenter, from the marquee free agent signings to the rookie under the microscope, football is back. And SportsCenter will be live at 3 NFL training camps, including the defending Super Bowl champion. SportsCenter live at training camp all day tomorrow on ESPN. You a Patriots guy?
I'm a Steeler guy, but I'm a fan of the Patriots.
Yeah.
And all the hatred right now is amusing to me.
Ian Desmond, the batter.
Because apparently Tom Brady might have known, or should have been informed, could have possibly had an idea the ball was, I don't know how they even say it now. I just know that they held up the trophy after the game and they were champs.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Stop. They traded. They made a trade with the best organization in sports today. Traded Boykin to the Steelers.
To the Steelers. Yeah. 5th rounder.
Got the call. Desmond doesn't like it. Strikeout number 5 for Syndergaard.
Well, Kurt, remember his last at bat where he dominated him on the inside part of the plate, just ran balls in, and now finishes them with this slider just perfectly located down and away. Maybe a generous call, but nothing you can do with that pitch as a hitter.
Even if it's closer, look at where he's leaking. He's leaking, still trying to protect the pitch he doesn't get. And that's when you talk about pitching in the big leagues, that's why you pitch in. You don't pitch in all the time. You pitch in enough to make sure that they have to be aware of it. Because if you're throwing 97, 98, and I got you aware in.
And think about Ian Desmond, who's just had one of those years where, and now all of a sudden he's had Syndergaard dominate him in, now finish him away in a second bat. Now your mind's racing.
On the appeal, he goes around, and so in 2 on Jose Lobaton. And they're on their feet again.
I was expecting a triple digit right there. Fans on their feet a little bit. Young pitcher. I think he struck everybody out on that pitch, including the umpire.
You know, I like he did, though, 4-seam right there.
I would fine him if he ever throws a number 2-seam. Oh.
And he threw him a breaking ball that gets lined into right field for a base hit, snapping a stretch of 13 in a row, set down by Syndergaard.
And pretty good at bat there by Lobaton, falling behind, and then the discipline to lay off a couple pitches that you can't handle up and out of the zone and on both sides of the plate. And finally Syndergaard just kind of rolls a breaking ball into the heart of the plate, and with 2 strikes he's able to flip one into right field.
One of the hardest things to get a young pitcher to understand is if you're commanding your fastball, you can't throw too many in a row. You're not throwing, when you throw 98, you don't throw back-to-back fastballs. You throw fastball in and fastball away. Those are 2 completely. Ask Aaron as a hitter, you have to pick one.
Yep.
So you've talked a lot about how the fastball can be 4 to 6 different pitches. Is that something you just felt yourself, or did somebody impress that upon you?
All of those things. The game, and he'll look back on this game today he'll watch that at bat on video and see that breaking ball single and go, what was I thinking?
And you know what? He's showing me as a hitter that he does have 4 different fastballs.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he works both sides of the plate much more effectively than I thought. Zimmerman is a guy that typically does that very, very well.
Coming in here. And threw it right where he wanted to.
That's the thing. He's not throwing in the area. He's throwing to the spot.
Yep.
And now this is where he can overthrow.
Yep. And you got a free swinger here. You can really expand with chase another fastball up or carry that breaking ball down the way.
1-2 to Taylor coming.
That ball's down. He doesn't touch it.
Yep. And I think he probably overthrew that a little bit, so it rode up.
And I'm okay with that. That's when you want to let them overthrow. And hey, when you can get away with it. What for me, the one thing I don't want him to try and guide a breaking ball or try and throw the ball with 2 strikes.
Change up?
Yeah.
At 90.
Yeah, second one he's thrown to a right-hander. Terry Collins told us before the game, it's a pitch that he is growing in confidence with, and also one, though, that he feels like he throws a little too much.
Somebody gives him a split, lights out, game over.
Got it. Strikeout number 6. One more look. 99 coming right at you. Getting over.
Taco Bell.
Wow. And you got the jazzy version. It's like we're being welcomed back to Aaron Boone's nighttime talk show.
Jazz flute.
Late night with Johnny Carson.
Bottom 5 at Citi Field. The Mets erupting for 5 in the 3rd inning. They hit 3 home runs in a span of 4 batters. Beginning with this guy, Curtis Granderson, with a 2-run homer, his 17th of the season. Turned a 1-0 deficit into a 2-1 lead.
I know there's probably still a lot going on for Noah Syndergaard. Game, things, thoughts. year or two from now, in his mind, this game ended in the top of the fourth for him. I mean, he's going to pitch, but in his mind, 5, it's over. And usually against a guy like Zimmerman, early in the game, you do that, it's over. You can't give him 1 pitch outs tonight.
And Granderson chases a pitch in the dirt for out number 1. Time now for our high strength performance, brought to you by Chevy Silverado. And look, Aaron, at the 3 home runs in the 3rd inning for the Mets.
Yeah, a little hanging breaking ball, and then a first pitch fastball in the heart of the plate that Murphy jumps on, and then the one we're still scratching our head on as Lucas Duda continues to remain red hot in the power department, takes a pitch up and in, keeps it fair, and this place erupted.
Murphy with a fly ball into shallow right center. In comes Harper to make the catch, and just like that, 2 down. Duda heading into the on-deck circle. 3 home runs in 1 inning for the Mets. The first time they have done that since 2007. With 2 outs, here is Cespedes. From an A to a Red Sox to a Tiger to a Met. Has popped up, singled and scored here in this game. Out to short, spinning and firing is Desmond, and quickly the inning is over. 5 in the books, 5-1 Mets.
To call out the New York City Rockettes.
We invite native New Yorker and lifelong Met fan Jimmy Kimmel, and we also challenge the Washington Nationals.
I challenge Carson Daly, I challenge you, and I challenge Will Arnett.
It started as an effort by a nonprofit group, American Corporate Partners, back in May, meant to raise awareness for American veterans and some of the struggles they face, particularly re-entering the workforce. Thanks to all those who have participated over the last 2 months, and to the veterans, our heartfelt thanks for all that you sacrificed to join in and show your support. Search hashtag #GiveThem20 on Twitter. You gave us 20 a few weeks back, I believe, didn't you?
Yeah, Kirkjian and Adnan and I up on the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
Yeah, but Kirkjian only had to go like 2.5 inches for each one, so his 20 was like your 3.
You should try being nice once in a while.
I love Timmy.
Yeah, we all.
Hey, what a cause,
He's an
yeah,
easy
great
target.
cause. We had the presidents do it when we were in Washington. The president's mascots did it.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and did it very well. Top of the 6th inning here at Citi Field. The Mets up 5-1. Jordan Zimmerman will bat, facing Noah Syndergaard, who's given up just 2 hits, no walks. He has struck out 6. Struck out Zimmerman back in the third. Rendon homered in the first for the only Nationals run of the night. Here's a roller out to second. One down. Well, it has been a busy week to say the least in baseball. It was a busy day today. There were 2 bench clearing incidents today. One of them between the Blue Jays and Royals. A number of pitches up and in on Blue Jays hitters. They took exception to it, and the bench is cleared a couple of times. And then Jose Bautista tweeted his disapproval at Ned Yost's interpretation of the event after the game. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, hey, if it's the National League Central, somebody doesn't like somebody else. And there were some hit batters there when the bench is cleared. Jose Fernandez looked good today. He struck out 10 in those 6 innings. And Daniel Norris, the young left-hander who was traded from the Toronto Blue Jays as part of the David Price deal, made his debut and pitched extremely well for the Tigers today. All of these stories coming your way on SportsCenter later. Meanwhile, a deep home run to left off the bat of Yunel Escobar. Above us and up into the seats several rows above us to make it 5-2. Mets fans in that part of the ballpark at least get a little something they want as the ball is thrown back, but this is not what Syndergaard wanted.
Well, he wants to run that fastball in again. He gets it in, but up and not to the corner. And Escobar, who's been locked in from day one this season, shows a little power here as he hits his 6th, a no-doubter to left.
Nationals back within 3. And here's the guy who hit their first home run of the night, Anthony Rendon. Slider for a strike. Give me one thing each, guys, about the trade deadline that jumped out at you. One team, one story, one surprise, anything.
I think it's the parity in the game and the fact that mid-market teams are now all in and viable and capable of making big moves. I mean, Toronto, Kansas City, Houston, these are teams you never thought of in the past being active in the market.
Sure.
I go back to I was blown away by the number of not good but great prospects that got traded. It seems like there's been this insane amount of value placed, and I in some ways agree with it, but the amount of value in prospects over the last couple of years, this year it seemed like a lot of I mean, the Blue Jays, they're going to get David Price and hopefully everything works out, but if it doesn't work out and he becomes a free agent after this year and Daniel Norris goes on to be what they think,
right,
was that worth it?
Well, keep in mind, Syndergaard was a Blue Jay prospect.
Right.
This is what happens sometimes. They got R.A. Dickey in the deal. They traded d'Arnaud and Syndergaard here.
Now go back. Would you do that trade today?
No, probably not.
Right, and those are the trades like...
Although Dickey's pitching great right now, but still, look at this kid.
Right,
yeah.
And that's the thing. When you trade guys like this and arms like this, that's the scary part.
But still, Shill, I still think we saw teams reluctant to do that. The Los Angeles Dodgers, they upgraded a ton, but they ended up not being in on the Hamels.
The Padres are the ones that get me. That blew me away. That they didn't make more moves for prospects with guys that they do they really believe they have a chance to win it?
There's a base hit down the left field line for Rendon. Buster, quickly, as Harper comes up, this is right in your wheelhouse. What surprised you the most about the trade deadline?
Well, I heard a lot of rave reviews from other teams about what the Houston Astros did, augmenting their team with the addition of Carlos Gomez and with the addition of Scott Kazmir. And they feel like that, you know what, this is a team that could now be the best in the American League West. And I heard so much surprise around baseball that the Padres didn't do more. And I'll give you one example. The Mets actually offered the same deal to the Padres for Justin Upton, pitcher Michael Fulmer, that they wound up trading to the Detroit Tigers. And those are one of the deals that people with other teams thought the Padres should have made.
That second wild card has changed a lot.
Yeah.
It's a much different environment.
I feel like it's changed more than it should. Are you going to make that big of it? And the Giants and Royals threw everything out of whack last year. But are you going to do that for 9 innings? I do it if I know I have a guy I can give the ball to in that lockdown, that winner-go-home game. But that's a huge gamble to give away a draft.
Well, think about teams like, think about the Yankees. Really didn't stay pat.
Here's Bryce Harper, 5-2. One of the game's most dangerous hitters at the plate. A man at first, 1 out, as the Nationals bat in the top of the 6th. Harper is 0 for 2.
You saw the visit there. That's a. He's not telling him anything different. Just giving him breath. Take a breath. Game can speed up on you no matter how good you are when you're 22 years old. Just now he wants him to focus pitch to pitch. Just make one pitch at a time.
On the corner for a strike. Remember, Harper got himself tossed out of a game here a couple of nights ago in extra innings on a pitch that was probably another inch or 2 outside than this one was.
No, same pitch.
Matt Williams' message to Harper was MVP candidate superstars can't get kicked out of the game.
Well,
You've got to find a way to stay in the game.
You can't in that spot.
Yeah.
I mean, where they're down to the end of their bench, and now all of a sudden you got Zimmerman in the outfield and Ugla at first base, and
I didn't care about where they were on the bench. I cared more about the game and the score and the situation.
Well, have a look. Let's go back to Friday night. Jerry Meals, the home plate umpire. Harper irate instantly. Twice Meals says knock it off. And when Harper won't, he gets tossed.
that's going to be another step in the maturity process. We've seen some maturity happen this year with this uber talented outfielder for the Nationals, but it's still in certain spots controlling that fire that burns deep inside him.
The conversation, though, for me is, you know, I've had discussions like this with position players. I get it. I totally get it. You know, the plate might have been wide. You're having a rough night. But managing the umpires is its own game. They will protect each other. There will be guys that will call strikes that aren't borderline pitches to get that reaction. It's a lot less than it used to be, but it still happens. And that you don't want to have to get a hit off this kid plus have the umpire against you.
1-2. Laced into center, a base hit. Up to second goes Rendon. 3 consecutive hits and a run in this inning off Syndergaard.
Well, Curdy wanted to go in with this fastball. I'm not sure if this was the two-seam fastball that he tries to run back in, but it gets over more of the heart of the plate, and you see that tremendous lower half and that bat speed as that ball just drifts over the heart of the plate.
Right back to the
it's
barrel.
Up.
Yep.
But he hammers this ball back through the middle. You see him. Watch how explosive that lower half is, and then flat through the strike zone. Not a lot of lefties can handle a ball up in the strike zone like that, especially with this velocity. But that is lightning in the hands of Harper.
The first thing that came to my mind was not a lot of lefties can do that to that pitch and still hammer the ball down.
And the bullpen getting up now for the Mets, Carlos Torres. That bullpen has been outstanding in this weekend series. As Zimmerman guesses and chases.
You know, Syndergaard with that big lead, Kurt, opens up with the pitcher this inning. So it's let me just pound the strike zone and maybe not be as fine as I normally would be. And maybe that netted some of these better hitters for the Nationals some pitches on consecutive at-bats.
Oh, think about it. He made some great pitches in that at-bat. He stayed away. This is a classroom inning.
Zimmerman, you could see, turn briefly back to the home plate umpire, Andy Fletcher. He thought that ball was outside.
And by that, I mean, this is an inning where he either gets out of it and he goes back and remembers, hey, in a later game, this situation, or it gets away from him and he remembers that as well.
Up and in.
Zimmerman with a high fly ball left center. Cespedes drifting over shy of the track will make the catch. And the runners cannot advance.
Watch the ball. You're going to see everything in the top half of the strike zone. Change-up, fastball, change-up, that fastball. I don't mind going up there as long as if you're changing eye level. He's not really changing eye level that much. He's kind of just staying up there.
The 2 down in the inning. The bullpen is up. The tying run is at the plate. Jason Worth is the batter. He has struck out and popped up. What an important guy this guy could be for the Nationals if they're really going to get their offensive gear the way they thought it would be back at the beginning of the season. Yet have played such long stretches without Worth, without Zimmerman, without Rendon, still without Span. Ground ball will end the inning. The Nats get 1 but leave 2 and trail by 3. Welcome back to Citi Field Sunday from the seats on ESPN. Dan Schulman, Aaron Boone, Kurt Schilling, Buster Olney's back in his usual spot beside one of the dugouts. We're here at the Party City deck. Quite frankly, like stuff in our faces between innings here.
Yeah, one of those cats just gave me a little mustard for
the pretzel.
Just some person you've never met before.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
Met fan, he's feeling good right
That's
now.
true. Shake Shack was a big hit.
Yep.
Some enjoyed it. Some enjoyed it.
Ours was.
Yeah.
I think
I torpedoed mine with my left elbow about 3 bites in by accident, sent it flying, but it was good until
some post-game doves. They will appreciate that.
Here's Lucas Duda, another home run in this game. He had 2 yesterday. He's got 9 in his last 8 games. His last 10 hits have all been for extra bases. 9 homers and a double.
I'm curious to note, though, what he's trying to do with that ball right there. That's the pitch he tried to get in there. He did get in there, that bat that he homered on. You're in a 1-1 count.
It'll be a base hit, hit it right through the shift despite the best efforts by Rendon.
Just a single. Ho-ho.
He's got to be happy to see guys like Cespedes and Uribe and Johnson showing up.
Well, that's where it helps him now. He got himself locked in, and they try to go, I think, bury that slider on his hands.
When you're a good pitcher like Zim is, you make the ball go both directions on that side of the plate. He did that, and both those balls he got barreled to. So, hey, it's not open in there.
Leadoff single due to the batter Uribe.
Well, let's go back to that Duda home run back in the 3rd inning. And look at that pitch. It's a fastball about 94 at the belt and on the inside corner. And the reason he's able to get it is he doesn't drift forward. He clears his hips first, so that creates space and allows him to get the barrel on it deeper in the zone than you normally would on a pitch in. But that's the look of a red-hot hitter right now when you can handle that pitch, considering the damage he's been doing consistently on pitches down and out over the plate.
And where that has a huge effect is I'm a pitcher getting ready to face these guys. I'm watching video. I see that. That eliminates that pitch in many situations from my repertoire, which helps him.
But I think you got to look at it as an aberration.
But to me, you can't hit that. That's not the first time he's ever done that. And he's not uncomfortable doing it. And he just showed you again with the ball coming at him.
Yep.
He likes that ball in there. And so now for me, I'm going to stay down and away until he shows me he can hurt me that way. But I got to tell you, I have seen that very few times. That ball in struck that well, kept fair.
Uribe strikes out. Here's Kelly Johnson. Johnson with a couple of groundouts tonight. Played a ton of second base in his career. Has played some first. Has played the corner outfield spots.
But one more point on Duda. He has reestablished his threat at the plate and his presence at the plate that had kind of gone away in the middle part of this season. Now, because the supporting cast is better, that should help him to better sustain it, because it should net him more pitches over the second half of this season.
Wasn't it how funny how quickly things can change? Terry Collins telling us Duda came to him and said, hey, is Kelly Johnson here to play first base? And Collins said to him, you guys will determine that by how you play on the field.
Challenge.
Yeah.
And he answered, obviously.
I mean, until they made some of these trades, this has been one of the worst offensive teams in baseball.
Like
in every category. Yeah.
Historically.
Terrible offensively.
I remember a couple weeks ago they fielded a lineup where 4 or 5 guys were hitting 1 something.
Two down. 6 strikeouts now for Zimmerman. Follow your favorite team and players all season with MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com at Bat now. 2 down. Here is Kevin Plawecki, the Met catcher tonight. Here's some of the numbers we were talking about on the season. Last in the National League in runs per game, worst batting average, and the second worst on base percentage and slugging percentage.
And 5 days ago, you would have thought them catching the Nationals while they were still in it. Man, I didn't really see it as realistic based on just how anemic that offense has been. Kurt, it's a different team now.
Oh, it's a different roster.
And a different offense.
No team had higher expectations coming into the season than Washington.
Well,
no team was picked by more people for what that's worth to win than Washington.
And I think when you were talking, I think it was you that asked Matt Harvey about the trades. You can feel from the players when they know the offense, the front office is all in. Things change.
Well, they got to be feeling that in Houston. They got to be feeling that in Toronto. They got to be feeling that in a few cities.
And I think these trades help the Mets put Thursday's awful game in the back seat and were able to turn the page because Cespedes was coming in, because they had their so there was reason for optimism, and I think it made it easier to get over a gut-wrenching loss on Thursday.
Well, good teams don't let losses linger,
right?
But there are some that stay with it. But that was Thursday, and that seems like another half of a season away.
Yeah.
But I keep going back. You know, front offices always expected the players to do everything they could to win. I wanted the same buy-in from the people running the team. If you got that, nobody to blame but yourself as the players if you don't get it done. Boston's a great example this year. They thought they put a team together, and whatever they thought, the players didn't play. When the players don't play, somebody's going to get fired, and you can't fire the roster.
Well, let's go back to that game that you guys were talking about on Thursday night. Heavy rain in the 9th inning. Mets are leading 7-5 after a rain delay of 44 minutes when there were 2 outs in the 9th inning. Derek Norris comes back with a base hit. Matt Kemp with a base hit, and then Justin Upton hits a 3-run homer. There was another long rain delay, and then the Padres eventually won the game 8-7. That was 3 days ago. As you guys said, it kind of feels like 3 months ago in some ways, given everything that's gone on since.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think we've given Terry Collins enough credit too for, you know, the way he's run the show, and I think he plays a part in helping this team turn the page and get ready for the next day's game.
And this is not the thing you really like to hang your hat on, but their schedule the rest of the way has to be one of the easiest in baseball. I think they're only like 15 of their remaining games are against plus 500 teams. They've got a bunch against the Phillies. They've got 7 against the Rockies. They've still got the Red Sox coming. They've got a bunch against Miami. They will finish with a 3-game series here against Washington. That could mean everything for these teams.
I don't know about you, Bonnie, but I don't remember a day in my career when I ever thought about strength of schedule.
No.
Like, you come into a series at the end of the year, that's one thing, but like, hey, this month we had, because those were always, I was always fearful of going into a stretch against bad teams not playing well.
No, but look at it now from the Mets. This offense, bad teams can beat good pitching if they're playing against a bad offense. This offense will beat up on some bad teams now.
Presented by Booking.com. Some shots from around Citi Field. Thanks to all the folks here at Citi Field, not to mention in Pittsburgh, Anaheim, and Boston, who showed us such a good time over the last 4 weeks as we got to do games Well, 3 cases a game, in 1 case just a rain out. But we got to experience 4 ballparks from 4 very different vantage points. And there's our vantage point right now, here in the first row out in left center at Citi Field. We're going to the top of the 7th with the Mets up 5-2. Syndergaard is back on the mound. It'll be Desmond, Lobaton, and Taylor. 6, 7, and 8 in the Nationals lineup. 85 pitches for Syndergaard as he starts the inning. First pitch swinging. Nice stop in the hole. Tejada, but he will not have a play. It'll be an infield hit for Desmond.
Well, when you talk about the multiple fastballs, fastball being multiple pitches, up and in, up and away. Now you go arm side in, pretty much unhittable for almost anybody. He's locating the ball well, and that sets this up. There's nothing you can do with that pitch. When you got to worry about 97, 98 as the belt in located.
And it looks like they're starting to get busy in the pen again. Second time tonight.
Yeah, this is one of the areas where the game has changed dramatically.
Lobaton with a ground ball to second one, back to first, not in time.
You know, Lobaton, who doesn't run real well, as the Mets decide if they're going to challenge this play, and looks like they got him.
Yep.
Now, does the ball have to be in the back of his glove?
Ball in the back of the glove before.
Because I'm not sure.
He's out.
I think he's out. Crowd has already seen one replay here at Citi Field, and they liked what they saw. They just saw it again. Well, they liked it even more.
They just made their call.
Yeah. It's unanimous here.
Out.
Yeah.
Take the headsets off and let's move it along.
Yeah. In the back of the glove, yes. That's the rule.
Yep.
Yeah. Looks like it. Yeah.
Well, the longer it takes, the more likely you think the possibility exists that they won't call him out.
Well, I found it fascinating getting an inside look at how this whole process works, and much more, I think now, especially as a player, I would be if I knew, tolerant of the timing, because they're doing everything they can do to make sure whatever happens, they're feeling 100% on what they walk away with.
Frame by frame.
This is big too, because if you can get the deeper you can get Syndergaard into this game.
Yeah.
Remember, Familia, their closer, has pitched 3 nights in a row. So in a perfect world, they'd like to steer clear of him. But in a game like this, he's certainly available.
You're also looking at potentially, if he gets a quick one here, maybe getting him back down in the 8th.
Yep.
So they overturn the call. Mets fans are happy, and that's a double play. Here's Michael Taylor. Taylor has grounded out and struck out. 2 runs on 6 hits, no errors for the Nationals. 5 runs on 6 hits, no errors for the Mets. Every run of the game is scored on a home run tonight. Solo homers for Rendon and Escobar for Washington. And for the Mets, all of the damage done in the 3rd. Curtis Granderson with a 2-run homer. Daniel Murphy going back-to-back with Granderson. And then 2 batters later, Lucas Duda with a 2-run shot, as Carlos Torres is up for the 2nd time tonight for the Mets.
90 pitches now, Kurt. I mean, if he gets through Taylor here.
Yeah, but I think this is there were some high leverage pitches last couple innings, and I think he knows it. So this is a look into his head right now in a big pitch situation.
I mean, that's pretty good spoil right there by Taylor. I mean, that's a pitch off the plate away, but we've seen it called at least a couple of times tonight with 2 strikes. Ideally, you protect on that to be able to spoil that. You just at least give yourself a chance as a hitter to maybe get a mistake.
Fouls back a fastball.
Yeah, I would imagine this will be it for him. And he knows it too, from an inning perspective. So this is when you empty the tank.
And the inning is over. 8-pitch inning for Syndergaard. 7 strikeouts on the night. 7th inning stretch in New York. And the rookies having another strong night. Mets lead 5-2. You're covered for the first couple innings here. Want some bugles from Korea?
That's Skittle Green.
That's popsicle green.
Nope, Skittle Green. You wear the green probably the best of all.
Look good in line.
Look like a giant head of lettuce.
Dan Schulman. Oh, we are. Under this umbrella is Schilling. Kruk's handling it reasonably well in the backseat. It is pouring. In the seats 4 weeks in a row. Crucky off this weekend, so Boone's with us. I think this would be a good time, Schill, for us to thank the people who employ us, because there's not another industry in the world that would allow us to do this. For
the amount of people that make this show happen, I feel sorry for all of them when we're done it each weekend. The amount of work that they have to do, amazing people, amazing team. Who didn't see this coming right here?
Crucky in a landslide.
Apparently some people in Kansas City got a hold of the voting process.
And stuffed the ballots in favor of Crucky. Oh, I tell you, Buster's giving it his all.
Yeah, I'm contacting my lawyers. I'm going to file for a recount down in the state of Florida. I wanted that.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen.
5-2 Mets as we go to the bottom of the 7th. And the new reliever for Washington, left-hander Felipe Rivero, who was on the mound Friday night when Wilmer Flores hit the home run in the 12th inning to give the Mets the win. 19th appearance of the season for Rivero. Danny Espinosa comes on now at short. Double switch for the Nationals.
Rivero's been a nice addition to this bullpen for Washington. We'll see a mid-90s fastball, slider, changeup, and he's been particularly effective against left-handed hitters. And after this, you've got Granderson, Murphy coming up.
Probably just as important, and I do like the way their bullpen's comprised. You got 2 rotations that are starting to give. Look at these bullpens aren't taxed. There's some times when they'll throw a couple days in a row. Both these clubs, I think, will enter September with very fresh bullpens compared to everybody else.
Nationals still hoping to get Steven Strasburg back before long. He's already made 1 rehab assignment, coming back from his 2nd stint on the disabled list this year. And Espinosa gets a play right off the bat, 1 down. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Goodyear, chosen by experts for superior performance. Goodyear, more driven. We should mention the #1 guy in that Washington rotation. He's been pretty solid this year.
Been all right.
Max Scherzer.
Didn't he go like a month giving up only like 3 hits total? Well, and there was a couple things. First off, Max Scherzer's a #1. When you sign a free agent pitcher to a monster contract, that's what you're expecting. His win-loss record probably could be a lot better than it is. But I'm struck by, when you look at these 2 rotations, I think there's, 6 #1 picks in the 10 starters that they have. That's what when you pick a #1, a guy in the first round as a pitcher, that's what you're picking for.
Here's Granderson. 1 for 3, the 1 and 2 run homer back in the 3rd, got the Mets on the board.
And I say that, Dan, because when you look at what the deadline did and the Royals getting Cueto, trading Brandon Finnegan, who was their #1 last year, to the Reds to get, how many innings of Cueto are they going to get for their #1 pick in the draft last year?
Similar to the David Price deal you were talking about.
I mean, that to me is where you as a GM, you hold your breath, because the Norris trade. I mean, these kids are all potential top of the rotation guys.
Well, the thing that's different about those 2 situations too is you got Kansas City, who's kind of running away with the Central a little bit, and as Granderson strikes out here, the Blue Jays trying to get to that 1-game play-in.
And sometimes, and you guys know this well, I mean, it's not just look at the win-loss record. The same day I think the Blue Jays made the Tulowitzki deal, the Tigers announced they were in sell mode. The 2 teams were a half game apart in the standings.
I was trying to be a fly on the wall in those clubhouses, thinking, if I'm in Detroit's clubhouse, what's going through your mind right now if you're Justin Verlander?
And there have been times in the past in Toronto when they've kind of been on the cusp and they haven't made the move. But now they look at the other teams in the wild card race and they see maybe they can get by them, and they're trying to take advantage of the crazy offense that they have. And not for nothing, they haven't been in the playoffs in 22 years. That's the longest in baseball. So, it was kind of a perfect storm for them to go for it. And Detroit, maybe a different set of circumstances to a certain extent.
Detroit had been trending badly for 2 months.
And traded not only David Price, obviously Cespedes traded, Joaquin Soria traded as well.
Well, I think Toronto absolutely did what they had to do, and I agree with what Detroit did, though, because when you look at Detroit's farm system, and Miguel Cabrera on the disabled list, Verlander's still kind of coming back, the window for the Tigers is short, so you've got to be able to retool a little bit if they're going to have a chance next year and the following year. And that's why I think they had to be sellers.
American League wild card race is just that. It is wild right now. The Angels lost again. They've lost 6 in a row. They were a game up on Minnesota for the first wild card spot. Baltimore and Toronto just a game back of the second wild card spot. And by the way, the Blue Jays and Twins begin a 4-game series tomorrow. David Price will make his Blue Jay debut in that first one.
And, you know, we think about Texas and the Hamels deal being all about next year and pairing with Darvish, but they're hanging right in there.
Still 50-something games to go.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, this could be a year you get into the playoffs with 84, 85 wins as that second wild card. And a base hit for Murphy. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on more than 400 devices with MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more every night on every device. Visit MLB.TV for details. A 2-out single for Murphy, and here's Cespedes, 1 for 3. Singleton scored on the Duda home run back in the 3rd. You can hear the chant of "Let's go Mets" here at Citi Field.
You know, the question I'd ask you guys is, I don't think all postseason opportunities are not created equal. So what, if you're the Cubs and you have a roadmap and a game plan like Theo does, what is that 1-game playoff worth to your plan? What is that 7-game series worth to your plan? And that's kind of what I said, because like the Padres, what were they thinking and what did they do and why?
I mean, some of it depends on how deep your farm system is. If you think you can give up 3 prospects, but you still got a lot after that. But very few teams were willing to give up their best prospects.
Yes.
Most teams seem to protect 1 or 2 guys and say they're off the table. Don't even ask me about it.
Yep.
The Dodgers seem to be one of those teams.
The Dodgers and the Yankees ultimately would not give those chips away.
And if you guys want to know what's at stake for a team like the Blue Jays, look at the Milwaukee Brewers when they traded for CC Sabathia. They went all in. They made the wild card. A short stay in the postseason. But since then, they've drawn really well because the perception of the franchise changed.
The 0-2 to Cespedes. Foul back.
Well, yeah, the two things you can't factor into deadline are the fans' perception of the club, and that changes into positive, and the players. The Tigers, we might all look at the Tigers and say, clearly Brad Ausmus felt like they had another run in them, and was talking like that. The players feel like that. You can't walk away from that.
A lot of shakes for a reliever. That was 4 shakes.
He's going to bounce that breaking ball. Be careful.
Ground ball to short. The short way to second to force the lead runner and end the inning. End to 7. Thor's coming back, it looks like. 90 pitches going to the 8th, up 5-2. Matt is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com at bat now.
The best seats at every ballpark for every game. Visit MLB.com/tickets today.
Well done. Sure, you can jump in on a
promo
anytime.
Well done, Padawan. After that.
Top of the 8th, Syndergaard. I said 90, but it's 93 pitches as he comes back now. 94 as he starts the 8th inning with a 5-2 lead. Season high and career high. He's a rookie. 116 for Syndergaard. Danny Espinosa, who came on in a double switch, is the first batter for the Nationals.
I think these young pitchers in this organization are going to learn in a good way because of Matt Harvey. I mean, his mechanics, and they watched his workload, and he still had Tommy John surgery. And I think at some point you realize there's almost no way to avoid. You can't stop a guy from getting hurt unless you just don't pitch him. But seeing him back out here, I love, because you can't teach a kid how to make these pitches until he's on the mound in that inning making them and making mistakes.
And as you can see, they got some confidence in him. They've got nobody up in the pen right now.
Yeah, when he came off the mound after the last half inning, Dan Worthen walked over to him, the Mets pitching coach, and asked him the question, how are you feeling? You good to go? And Syndergaard gave it a nod.
Scrambling for the phone.
At the knees for a strike, 3-2.
And we've talked about this, Dan. I'm biased to my pitchers, but as a manager, I want my starters to feel as good as they can feel for those 4 days in between starts. You don't want this to go from a night where he's saying, yeah, I threw 7 good, to leaving with the bases loaded and things like that.
Right down the middle for strike 3 called.
Well, you get a little help, 3-1. And then 3-2, you lock them up. It's not that it was down the middle, it was 98. 98 down the middle, you can lock somebody up with that.
Well, that was the 3-1 pitch there that he maybe got the call down a little bit. Strike 3.
Number 8 on the night for Syndergaard. Back to the top of the order for Escobar, who homered his last time up. Escobar's been an important player for the Nationals this year with all the injuries they've had, the change of position for him. A guy who in his last couple of stops did not leave with the best reputation, but by all accounts it's been smooth sailing for him.
They're not in this position without Yunel Escobar. A consistent hitter from the start, and the ability to go play different positions. He's played third, he's played second, he's played a little bit of shortstop, and been, outside of Bryce Harper, as valuable as anyone.
And I will tell you, as a former teammate of Matt Williams, if he was anything other than being a great, you would have known about it. And I like the thought that he's made that adjustment.
0-2. Down and away with a breaking ball.
That's a good sign right there, too. That 0-2 miss, quality breaking ball. He's still getting through the end, still finishes his pitches, not seeing the fatigue.
Fly ball, center field. Cespedes, 2 down.
Hey guys, he's faced 28 hitters tonight. He's thrown first pitch strikes to 20 of them. That's 71%. Now, when he first came up to the big leagues, he was throwing first pitch percentages of 50 to 60%. And then at the beginning of July, Dan Worthen, their pitching coach, challenged him and made a deal with him that every time he threw a first pitch strike, Worthen would pay him $3, and if he didn't, Syndergaard had to pay him back. Since then, he's had a number of starts over 70% first pitch strikes.
And it's such a young age with that kind of stuff. I mean, you don't see that very often.
Well, that $3 means a lot, you know. But that's you want to win. You want to, and those are the little ways good pitching coaches get you to understand what truly is important. And you know, you're looking at, he went 11 of 12 first pitch strikes after that 5-run inning. That to me says, hey, the game, I need to take this game and I need to put it away. 2 solo home runs. Solo home runs for the most part won't beat you.
But something you said to me, Kurt, really struck a chord, and that is now after several starts, he knows his stuff can absolutely dominate at this level, so there's no fear of contact anymore, a willingness to challenge in the strike zone.
And when you come up for that first time on the big leagues, you try and make nasty pitches from the first pitch, and you can't do that. But this is the one you want to finish the night with a punch out right here. If you're Syndergaard, and Bryce is wanting to knock him out of the game.
So Rendon out at second, 2 down. Harper the batter, and he takes outside for ball 1.
99. He's reaching back, emptying the tank definitely now.
Harper has grounded out, flied out, and had a base hit to center field. One and one.
He's getting after it.
Harper checking with home plate umpire Andy Fletcher to see if that would have been a called strike.
Hitters.
Pitchers never do that.
Hitters always do that. Like they get called. He's like, is that ball up? Or that, like one at their neck.
Yeah.
Pitchers, we just beg.
Going away again.
Change up.
You know, you never see a lot of stepping off, indecision. He looks like he's either completely trusting Plawecki back there, or he feels real good about
watch them all.
Pitch.
Harvey, DeGrom, watch the whole staff. These guys understand tempo is part of a weapon. So they're using second sign too. This is the challenge. You want to throw a good fastball. You don't want to overthrow a fastball in a situation to a kid that can pull a bullet.
Struck out Harper to end the inning. 8 strong for Syndergaard and the Mets. Because bacon you can't eat is bacon you don't eat. And in part by the all-new LG G4. See the great, feel the great. And Chevrolet, find new roads. What a job by Noah Syndergaard. He appears to be done for the night after 8 innings, 2 runs, 7 hits, 9 strikeouts. Leaves with a 5-2 lead. Tyler Clippard, the former National, more recently the former A, is up in the pen right now for the Mets. As the Mets come up in the bottom of the 8th with Lucas Duda. 2 for 3 tonight, including another home run. By the way, this is the second, you'll like this shit, the second straight start for Syndergaard. 8 innings, no walks, 9 strikeouts.
It's okay if you're 22, I guess.
So he's got 20 walks and 100 strikeouts this year.
That's that. I mean, to me, that's the goal. 5-1 should be kind of the minimum for good pitchers.
Well, you had unusual command, my friend.
Well, but no. These kids, all 3 of these guys do. They. And again, I'm going to attribute a lot of it to Bartolo Colon. When you watch a guy at Bartolo Colon's age commanding a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, getting people.
Yeah.
He knew that pitch. I mean, that was I'm going to reach back and make a pitch, and he still made a quality pitch.
And he went right at Bryce Harper's strength there. That was essentially down the heart of the plate and down in the strike zone. Blew him away.
So you've been struggling to find somebody he reminds you of. Earlier today you mentioned J.R. Richard. For people who don't remember J.R. Richard. Yeah,
I mean, I remember when I went to Houston, they were talking about the fact that they used to take the radar gun to the bullpen. And his bullpens, he was 97 to 101, and his slider was 90 to 94. And he was, I think, 7 feet 5 inches tall and
6'8" actually.
He was an enormous,
enormous man,
enormous guy. Yeah. Apparently, it was a great, good-hearted guy as a teammate, but like people were scared to face him. Yeah. It was like Dave Parker pitching.
Clippard up. Syndergaard, by all accounts, done. Clippard, a guy, remember, Familia's pitched 3 days in a row. So he's probably out of action tonight. And Clippard, a guy, has been an 8th-inning guy more than a 9th-inning guy in his career. But Aaron, he's got closing experience, and you can certainly put him out there in this situation.
Yeah, closing a lot for the A's this year. And here with a 3-run lead, a chance to give Familia a much-needed night off as you get ready to head out on the road.
Awfully good numbers over 7 seasons with the Nationals. Juan Uribe is 0 for 3 as he takes a low, a ball and a strike. So if it holds up, the Mets and Nationals will be in a virtual tie for first place atop the National League East. They've got 6 more games left against one another, including a 3-game series here to end the regular season. As Uribe, it's a 2-hopper down to third, 2 down. On the MLB calendar this week, tomorrow night, Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. You'll be there, right, Booney? Pittsburgh?
Yep.
The Cubs and the Pirates Wednesday night. Luis Severino expected to make his first start for the Yankees as they host the Red Sox. And then the Dodgers and the Pirates Friday and Sunday. And look who it is. Wilmer Flores. We told the story a little bit earlier, the emotional week that he's been through. And after the Wednesday trade that wasn't and the Friday walk-off home run, he gets a standing ovation again here on Sunday.
This is so cool.
It is cool.
Awesome.
He did more to humanize players.
The trade deadline. He humanized the trade deadline.
He really did. Through no intent of his own.
It was all real.
Yeah. If you go back to Wednesday when he thought he had been traded, but it was still in the game at the time, he came up in the 7th inning, got a standing ovation for a ground out. And then when he took the field at the top of the 8th inning, the emotions overcame him a little bit, and every baseball fan in America saw that. And left field line, but well fouled.
There's a lesson in there, I think, for a lot of young players, and that the fans just want to know you care.
Yep.
And when they find that out, and then when they find out you care about them,
Yeah.
it creates a very different relationship. That's good stuff, though.
1-2.
And I had a chance to talk to him before the game about it, and he's just kind of smiling and shaking his head, and I think so appreciative of seeing this awesome fan base just wrap their arms around him.
Like most of the stadium's standing.
Yep.
Well hit, deep left field, off the wall on the fly. And it'll be a double for Flores, who can do no wrong right now. Who plays him in the movie?
That's unbelievable. Gary Cohen, the fine Mets broadcaster, called it Wilmer Flores Appreciation Night. Well, it's turning into Wilmer Flores Appreciation Night every night now here in Flushing. A little hanging breaking ball, and he goes down and gets it. And one thing Flores has shown is the ability to drive the ball. The walk-off homer on Friday night, his 11th of the year, and here driving a breaking ball off the wall in deep left center field.
Speaks to what Terry said before the game. He's got a bench now. He looks to his bench. He's got big league players.
They're still chanting Flores' name as Plawecki comes up. I thought somewhere in a movie the line was "There's no crying in baseball," but for him there was, and it's only endeared him to Mets fans. Plawecki, a couple of walks and a base hit tonight. He scored a run. Worked seamlessly with Syndergaard. Left center deep, but playable for Taylor, and the inning is over. We are going to the 9th at Citi Field. Tyler Clippard jogging in after 8 great innings from Noah Syndergaard as the Mets look to move into a first-place tie with the Nationals. moving into a tie for first with the Nationals atop the National League East. Some changes for the Mets. Juan Lagares has come into the game in center field, pushing Yoenis Cespedes from center over to left. Kelly Johnson out of the game, and the new pitcher for the Mets is one of their recent acquisitions, veteran right-hander Tyler Clippard. With the A's this year, 17 saves and a 2.79 ERA. Shill, what's his MO on the mound?
Hard, great changeup. He works off a changeup with a dominating fastball. Not very good command of the fastball. Scatters it, but throws a wipeout changeup to go with it.
Bryce Harper was the last out of the last inning for the Nationals, so it's Zimmerman, Worth, and then the pitcher spot. Pitcher batting 6th right now with the Nationals lineup, due up for the Nats here in the 9th. Zimmerman is 0 for 3. We want first place is now what they're chanting here at Citi Field. And they're 3 outs from a share of it.
Speaking from a little experience, this is not a fan base you want to wake up.
Which particular organization were you with when you discovered that?
Both. I didn't visit either stadium as a friendly guy. Shagging here was a challenge. Great fans, smart.
1-2.
Great breaking ball right there.
Well, they've been good hosts, right? They've been nice to you tonight.
They've been great.
They've forgiven and forgotten.
They've offered us some food. I didn't take it.
No.
Booney's still up and looks okay.
We've had a great vantage point. Really cool seats.
I tell you what, these might be the coolest, like, field level that we've been at. But I go back to every time I talk about my career and memories, it's always with fans. The fans make these seats are great because of the way the fans are. The atmosphere in this ballpark is electric.
They're trending up right now. The young pitchers, the trades they've made. Dynamite here at home. Outside with a fastball. And the count runs full. 8 innings for Syndergaard tonight. He gives up 2 runs on 7 hits, does not walk a batter, strikes out 9. They call him Thor. They've got the hammers out here in the 9th. Granderson, 1 down.
Dan, the challenge now, I think, for the Mets is they leave all this energy at home now and head out on the road where they have not been good this year. Albeit now they have a different team, but they've got to go take this good feeling they've got. Obviously, they're going to continue to pitch well, but play a more consistent playoff-type brand of baseball now on the road.
They're going to Miami. 3-game series beginning tomorrow. They've got an off day Thursday and then a 3-gamer at Tampa Bay over the weekend before they come back home to face Colorado and then Pittsburgh.
Well, you're pitching generally. I always felt like good pitching staffs will neutralize home and away records. You'll be good on the at home and on the road because you're starting pitching. They hit a little bit more. They're gonna be that road team they are at home.
Jason Worth 0 for 3, 3 for 20 since coming off the DL.
On the flip side, the Nats, I think they need to see a righty that doesn't throw 100.
Yep.
You know, they get to some different pitching. Those guys that are healthy start swinging the bats, and this is going to be a fun division.
Yeah, and there's got to be some comfort at least in knowing, hey, the cavalry is coming back. Strasburg's closer, and Denard Span, who is such an important part of this team, and just how consistently good he's been at the top of the lineup. And then you get Worth and these guys going, and it has a chance to still be that great team we've envisioned.
I don't think there's a more impactful bat than a leadoff hitter that understands on-base percentage.
Right.
To your point, in the last 2 weeks, they have faced Kershaw, Greinke, DeGrom, Harvey, Syndergaard twice each.
Yep.
Cole, Burnett, Jose Fernandez. That's just in the last 2 weeks.
And those are the guys coming back.
Into left field, a base hit. A 1-out single for Worth here in the 9th inning.
And you know what? That's why even if the Nationals don't win this game, that's an important at bat. You know, it's him grinding through an at bat, and that's kind of a typical Jason Worth swing right there, where he's a little bit fooled, but he does such a good job when he's right of keeping the bat in the hitting zone for a long time. And this is that great straight changeup from Clipper. That ball's down, the bat's in the hitting zone a long time, and Worth's able to get it. And that was one of those at bats that could start to help to propel him to feeling good at the plate.
Clint Robinson will pinch hit in the pitcher spot. Five-2 Mets, 1 on, 1 out of the 9th inning. And a soft liner to second for out number 2. Again, the chant of "We want first place." Lobaton takes a strike. And now sweep. If it holds up, Syndergaard gets the win to go to 6-5. Zimmerman would take the loss, fall to 8-7. This is a save situation for Clipper. High fly ball left center. Playable. Ball game. And the Mets have swept the Nationals and moved into a first-place tie with Washington atop the National League East Division standings. Noah Syndergaard, a big story tonight. Also 3 home runs for the Mets, all in a span of 4 batters. Granderson, Murphy, and of course Duda, his 9th in 8 games, and the Mets sweep him. Go to 55-50 on the season, and in a virtual tie with the Nats atop the East. Tomorrow night, more Major League action comes your way here on ESPN. It'll be the Cubs and the Pirates beginning at 7 Eastern time. Again, the final score from Citi Field in Flushing, New York. The Mets 5 and the Nationals 2 is the Mets sweep. For Kurt Schilling, Aaron Boone, Buster Olney, and our entire Sunday Night Baseball crew, I'm Dan Shulman saying thanks for watching and so long from New York. Sports Center is coming up next with John Anderson and John Buccigross.